30th already. Jeez.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Fast.
Can you
Sure.
maybe bring up, like the Google or whatever, the view of the landfill on Google that way?
A picture? Like an aerial?
Yeah, like whatever's,
I'm trying to think, probably.
You can just do Google Maps and
Well, I was gonna look, I'm trying to pull up the meeting. Again, I'm trying to think.
sorry, I am good.
That's okay.
all right, we can get started. It's a little after 5. I'm Scott Brown, the host inspector, and I'd like to, at this point, turn the meeting over to Astor to go over the waste activities and other activity at the landfill.
All right. Start for Q1 monthly tonnages. For MSW, January we did 19,256 tons. February was 17,442. March was 18,986. For C&D, in January we did 2,859 tons. In February we did 2,730. In March we did 5,799 tons. For residual, in January we did 708 tons. In February we did 1,622. And in March we did 947. For alternative daily cover, in January we did 751 tons. February dropped down to 128 tons, and then in March it was 551. Sewage sludge, we did 390 tons. In February we did 332, and in March we did 597. Out-of-state waste, in January was 11,073 tons. In February was 11,539, and in March was 14,344. For recycling, in January we had 3 residents, 2/3 of that, so 2 of them were from Lower Saucon. In February, we had 6 people use the recycling drop-off. 83% of that was from the township, and then in March, we had 5 people, 80% was from Lower Saucon. All our recycling is taken by Republic Disposal and disposed of at Green Star Recycling in Northampton, PA. Form use submittals, was it Cobo Production Inc. On January 25th, 2024. On January 31st, we had 79, was it Arvern Development LLC, which was contaminated soil. Form use, so February 1st, we had Asai Energy, spent activated carbon. On February 14th, we had Devon Self-Storage, coal-derived bottom ash was submitted a Form U. Again, on February 20th, we had a Form U submitted from 79 Havern Development LLC, which was contaminated soil. March 8th, we had Lebanon Seaboard Corp., which was waste tires. Was at March 12th, we had Quiet Core Inc., it's plant trash. March 14th, we had Mickelman Steel, was sandblast, abrasive, and residue. March 19th, we had Lehigh Valley Industrial Park, contaminated soil. And then March 25th and 27th, we had 2 Form U's submitted for Asai Energy, spent activated carbon. First quarter for annual groundwater trend analysis, our first quarter sampling event was February 12th through February 16th. Correspondence and reports. So on January 5th, our Q3 groundwater report was turned into the township, and on February 7th, our Q4 groundwater report was submitted to the township. So landfill operations. So our DEP inspections, on January 11th, we had Matt Vipon. January 18th, we had our engineering inspection from Matt Gligowski. January 26th, Amy was out for partial. February 21st, we had Matt Vipon and Gligowski on site at the same time. February 26th, Matt Vipon was back out. March 14th, we had Matt Vipon out with was it Chris Harding, is it Abe Belanca, and Ben Han. And then March 20th, we had Matt Gligowski out. For the host municipal inspector inspections. Scott was out on January 4th, January 10th, January 18th, February 1st, February 15th, March 7th, and March 21st. Commercial waste vehicles, in January, we had 2,226. For February, we had 2,075. In March, we had 2,357. For overweights, in January, we had 36, which 32 were given warnings and 4 were suspended. In February, 42 overweights with 40 warnings, 2 suspensions. And then in March, we had 50 overweights with 35 warnings and 15 suspensions, excuse me. Flare operations and gas collection. The landfill flare is the main gas collection system. Bethlehem Landfill continues to communicate with SES Field Services with any routine and non-routine maintenance to maximize landfill gas production and minimize odors. January average flow was 3,184 SCFM. Times for flare shutdowns, on the 14th, it was down from 9:18 to 9:46 and 10:18 to 10:24 due to high winds, and was restarted. January 30th, 2024, from 21:11 to 23:16, the flare was down due to suspected high condensate flow. Flare was looked over for maintenance and performed checks and restarted. On January 31st, from 13:34 to 13:55, the flare was manually shut down for well-filled construction tie-ins. Total downtime flare for January was 3 hours out of 744 runtime hours. February average flare flow was 3,360 SCFM. Let me see. On February 1st, 11:19 to 13:21, the flare was manually shut down for well-filled construction tie-ins. On February 2nd, 21:36 to 23:45, the flare shut off due to low average temps. Call-out was responded to by Archaea Field Techs. Flare was manually restarted. On February 5th, from 16:03 to 16:14, flare was shut off for routine maintenance checks. Total downtime of flare for February was 4 hours, 24 minutes out of 696 total run hours. March average flare flow, 3,344 SCFM. No shutdowns for the month of March. No downtime out of the 744 total runtime hours. During Q1, the North Slope Road had not needed repairs. The swell has not needed repairs. And then outside erosion of the sedimentation trap A spillway was repaired in March 2024.
Spillway still there?
Yes.
Okay.
Abatement system continued to operate and discharge to the City of Bethlehem wastewater treatment plant. Leachate collection. We have seen, similar to last quarter, we're seeing an increase with the development of the northern realignment cell into LMC 7. And then, same with the LMC 8. We also saw an increased flow due to the reconstruction of phase 2 downshoot for stormwater control. Radiation monitoring, there were 8 radioactive load alarms from January to March 2024. On January 12th, 24, the load was identified as, how do you say that, Cody?
Deuterium.
What is that?
Deuterium.
Okay, 177, and the load was disposed of on site. On 1/15/24, lutetium 177, and that was also disposed of on site. February 2nd, the load was identified as iodine 125. The load was disposed of on site. On February 20th, the load was identified as technetium 99, and the load was disposed of on site. February 29th, the load was identified as iodine 131, and the load was disposed of on site. March 7th, the load was identified as technetium 99, and the load was disposed of on site. March 20th, 2024, the load was identified as iodine 131, and the load was disposed of on site. And on March 22nd, 2024, the load was identified as iodine 131, and the load was disposed of on site. All loads are reported to the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection. Waste operations continue to be in the southeastern realignment to AB phase 1, phase 2.
What's lutetium? What's that usually come from?
It's mainly used for medical treatment, so it's the same thing as getting
I haven't seen that one before.
it's newer used isotope that they've been, instead of iodine, because it doesn't mess with your thyroid as much.
Chemotherapy.
And that,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, thank you, Astor. All right, now I will be going over my inspection reports, the host municipal inspector reports, and I'll highlight the DEP inspection reports for the first quarter. From my inspection reports, January 24th, just odor issues on January 24th. There was gas odors detected from roughly the Krasnansky property to the Swin salvage yard before and after the actual landfill inspection. I'll do a tour around outside the perimeter of the facility both times. It was detected. January 18th, a light landfill gas odor was detected near the Krasnansky property to the self-storage building prior to landfill, and after the landfill, there was no odor detected. February 1st, no odor detected before and after. February 15th, same, no odor before and after. March 7th, landfill gas odor was detected from the landfill entrance to the Red Barn Auto. To Red Barn prior to and after the landfill. And March 21st, there was a slight odor was detected in the area of Swin salvage yard. Prior to the landfill inspection and after the landfill inspection, a slight odor was detected near the area of the church on Apple Butter Road. Action items, these are basically observations that are made during landfill inspection and just kind of giving a status throughout our following reports, how they're progressing on addressing the action items. So on January 4th, 2024, they're addressing the gas odors being generated at the southeast corner of cell 2AB. The landfill was in the process of getting quotes at that point to start for the capping project. They continued removal of some sediment around the blue leachate storage tank. It's kind of an ongoing process with stormwater. It collects in there because it's a detainment pond around the basin around the leachate storage. Stormwater down channels through 4A and cell 3C are being repaired, and Napa has completed the placement of the liner for the northeast realignment NR1 cell. January 18th, BL received the quote for Napa to complete the capping project at the southeast corner, and DEP has been advised that they proposed intermediate capping project. And Napa was actually staging their capping materials at that point also.
Scott, can you just explain what was happening at that southeast corner that requires the action item discussion there?
Well, that's where the gas odors were detected and noted in the DEP inspection report in January 11th. They had some exceedances of gas from that area, and they also could see some leachate and some actual gas bubbles in the leachate coming from the southeast corner. So this has been it's been an issue for close to a year, that maybe a little less, that there's been an odor issue coming from that, and Bethel Landfill has been trying several, adding more cover. They added more horizontal wells around the north and along the eastern edge. That they've tried, even just adding road, adding a real thick cover of material over top of the gas, over the top of the fill at the southeast corner, and it didn't work. So that's when they decided the only solution really was to cap that southeast corner. So that's kind of where we are. Well, we're back in January, and as of now, that has been completed, and they're in the process of getting approval to put some vertical gas wells down into the waste pack underneath the lined area, which will help collect that gas and take it to the flare to be burned, or whenever the gas to energy plant gets started, it'll eventually go to that point. So, and the odor, I know I'm jumping ahead here a little bit, but the odor has substantially subsided. When I've been out, DEP's noted that it's helping already without the gas wells even being in place.
That's the capping process that you're.
That was the capping, yeah. So the capping process is just what it is. There's a 25 millimeter PVC plastic liner that gets tied in at the base and basically covers over top of the waste and traps the gas in there for a collection system to basically suck out the gas from underneath there and take it to the wrap. So that's what you see when you go across the landfill. You see a lot of black material or green stuff material. That's all capping over top of waste. So it kind of creates an envelope for the gas to collect in and be drawn out.
So basically, when the new gas company gets started up, that would probably eliminate 95% of that problem?
Well, the wells will eliminate it, and right now the gas, the flare will handle that. So I mean,
But is that, are they equivalent? Is the gas company equivalent to what the flare's pulling? Or will they both be pulling the same amount?
Astrid, you can answer that one.
I mean, the first source is, once the RNG plant is online, the first source is gonna be the RNG plant. But we will also use the flare as a supplemental tool as well. So just to have extra flow. So most likely we'll have the RNG plant and the flare running, simultaneously.
Right, but what I'm trying to say, and maybe I'm not being clear, is basically, once this company is online and the pull is directly to them, will that pull be stronger than what the flare is pulling from the area?
No, they're about the same.
Same, okay. So we just had the conversation, the company's going online somewhere between May 31st and June 16th?
Yeah, roughly.
And the township paperwork is holding some of that up?
No, that's what they're waiting on, is occupancy permit from the township, correct?
Okay, maybe we can get that moving a little quicker because the summer's coming. Okay, that's about all. Thank you. Sorry, I made you walk back here.
What is being held up at the township?
Yeah, I refrain from saying it's being held up with the township, but they're waiting on the occupancy permit from the township.
What?
The occupancy permit.
Okay, so who's holding that up then?
That's what I'm saying. I didn't say they were holding it up. That's what they're waiting on.
Oh, because I don't want the township.
Want to make sure that there's a formal review of
Yeah, yeah,
everything on that occupancy permit.
Absolutely, and so I wanted to make sure we were in the clear.
I
with
will
that.
discuss it with the zoning officer tomorrow, but
Okay,
I just want to be clear. I did not say the township was holding anything up. That's who they're waiting on. Yeah.
that's what I
Yeah.
heard it from someone, and
Because of the occupancy.
I just wanted to make sure that we were in the clear.
Yeah, that's the last piece that they're waiting on.
Thank you.
Okay, January 18th, Napa completed, started placing the 24-inch stone cover over the northeast, northern realignment cell 1 project. So that's the furthest north new cell they're constructing. The sediment removal continues around the leachate storage tank, and the stormwater channels 4A through 4A and 3C are continuing to be worked on.
I don't want to take it off, because this is one of my things, is the sediment, the leachate storage tank, is that typically full all
No.
the time, or no? It's
There-
pretty much
There's
steady?
actually never been leachate in there
There's
yet.
never been
No.
leachate?
Not up to this point. There's gonna be eventually, but, because the wastewater treatment plant wants us to meter the water over. During some of the tropical storms, they got kind of inundated. So with the new permit, they asked us to use the tank to meter it over.
So it's my understanding that the containment pond around there is a lined
Yeah.
pond, in case there was ever a breach of the tank or the pipes.
It would be
that
like a
was supposed
secondary
to-
containment.
Yeah,
correct.
secondary containment, yes.
The amount of sediment in the amount, I'll use that. So the amount of sediment that's in there right now is that designed to hold twice the tank, or is it designed to hold 1.25% of the
Honestly,
tank?
that was designed 25 years ago. I
Yeah.
don't remember.
Yeah, I'd have
I
to
don't
look
remember.
into it.
The sediment's clean.
Yeah, they're
It's just some
consistently
mud
cleaning out.
film, about pretty much more some mud film that needs to be cleaned
Right.
off, but most
Yeah,
of
I
the sediment.
I saw in the pictures, like, near the pipes, it's probably like 2 feet.
Yeah, less than they're out, yeah.
Right
So
around
we
there.
keep digging it out
Yeah.
and then it keeps, so we're trying to get the stormwater to go around it.
So,
Again,
so
there's
that
never
was,
been
yeah,
anything-
that was never intended to hold sediment. Obviously, it would fill off with
No.
water, and then the water would need to be pumped out. So there's an
Correct.
issue with sediment collecting around the tank.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Has that liner ever been tested in the past 25 years? To make sure it holds water?
So actually so unfortunately, we've been working on this, like, because as the wastewater treatment plant asked us to use that tank. So they actually went through, cleaned it all out, changed all that liner out, and then it filled with sediment again. So we'll probably have to go and change it all out again.
Yeah, no, I know typically you run machines down there, the liner, is it double lined or just single liner?
I believe that's just a single, because it's just secondary containment. And then I can double check to find out how much like what the capacity of that is.
You know, I don't
I didn't
remember.
know if the thing was ever full, but if it's gonna be full, someone might as well follow up on.
Yeah, now it's a little
Obviously,
more critical once it's being
Right.
used.
Yeah.
Like I said,
I mean, up until this point, there's never been leachate in that tank. So.
Okay. Understood.
okay. February 15th, by that point, Napa had completed the grading over top of the waste in preparation for placement of the new 25 millimeter liner over top, capping material
Could
over
you
top
just
of
tell me
that.
where we are again on this, on your page?
February 15th and
Number 4?
number 4, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, 4A. So the ground grading was all completed. The NAPA also completed placement of the soil berm around the northern realignment, western and northern limits of the cell, and starting the placement of the 24-inch stone cover over the liner when the weather conditions were conducive. Said that they were continuing to remove sediment around the storage tank. March 7th, Napa completed the intermediate capping project, and Bethel Landfill is now working on started working on the gas plan for installing the vertical wells. So ultimately for DEP approval to install those wells. And Napa was near completion of the 24-inch stone cover in the northern realignment, cell 1. Sediment, again, around the leachate storage tank was continuing. The repair of leachate seeps in northern section of cells SE2AB, that's where the active fill area is right now. Those were repaired. And sediment trap A in its northern berm that was also repaired, and that was damaged during one of the heavy storms. That's located. It's located immediately to the west of the maintenance garage, if you're familiar with the landfill at all. And it's it basically flows towards water that flows out of that pond, which is very small, flows to the north down towards Riverside. It's not a stormwater detention pond like you see out front. It was more just, it was there for collecting sediment. The pond itself is, I'd say, it's kind of triangular shaped, and it's maybe about 40 feet wide at the berm on the northern side, and maybe about 70 feet long. So it's about 1,600 to maybe 1,600 square feet total of area, and not very deep. So it's not like anything like you see along the front of the landfill. Those are large basins all along the apple butter roadside.
Can you explain like that sediment trap? My understanding is from the DEP inspection reports in February that it was identified as an area that just wasn't under regular monitoring and wasn't part of the permit for the landfill, and then they discovered this issue. And can you just explain that?
Well, from my history, that sediment trap pond was part of cell 4F, the wall. So that was the high wall that was constructed just to the south and west of the maintenance garage. That's at the very top of the landfill. That was part of that construction project, and it was left in place after that construction project was completed. There's no real, at the outlets where that spillway over that northern berm there was no designed kind of channel that DEP required to be put in. So it just basically followed the natural grade down through the landfill, which was probably 200 feet from the northern perimeter fence, and then from that point it would flow down the hillside down to Riverside like it has for millions of years. A lot of that water that used to flow down that northern side was to the north was about 10 acres of that water was then, because of the high wall project, was actually designed to actually flow to the south towards Apple Butter Road. So the high wall project actually took away 10 acres of area that used to collect stormwater and flow down towards Riverside, and now takes it towards Apple Butter Road and into the stormwater ponds that are along Apple Butter Road at the landfill.
So can you just explain, I think now with that, I guess, I don't want to use the wrong term, but where that escape section was that they found, it's now a requirement under the DEP permit that area be inspected?
Yeah, DEP asked now that sediment trap be now included as part of the routine inspections and reporting. It was never required before. So they're saying now it has, the landfill has to monitor it and report back, prepare reports for that. So the Bethel landfill is already, it is incorporated, the repair, and obviously they're agreeing to monitor it. And I guess at this point, the discharge from that pond is also ultimately going to be permitted as a discharge point, but they can't create the permit until the design is completed for the discharge structure. So will be in the process. That's down the road, but so it'll be under it'll be regulated more than it was before. It wasn't really a regulated flow after it left the sedimentation pond.
And then, just from what I understand, the landfill went and built up that berm where I don't want to call it breach, but that area where it was coming through.
Erosion. There's erosion on the outside of the spillway, and that we just repaired it.
Right, okay, so now.
It's still the same height, it's still designed the same. It just fixed the erosion on the outside of it.
Just repaired that erosion where it was going over the berm or going through the berm to the downslope to the Riverside Drive, right? Okay.
And just to be clear, the landfill did submit a written response to DEP with respect to that issue, and the township was copied. So all of those details are included in a letter dated March 21st, that the township has a copy of.
Thank you.
So, one of the concerns I had with that whole situation was,
Talk louder.
one of the concerns I had with that situation was that the typical guy who's out there inspecting these soil erosion and sediment controls every week he signs off on whether it's a violation or not, every single time. I mean, it's a line item right in here, and implemented as per approved plans, gullies over 9 inches repaired. So what happened there, he was out on site, and he couldn't make that determination whether they're following the plans or not. So, to me, how much of this is being checked for the soil and erosion sediment control plans while he's out on site, you know? I don't know how far that goes, and I don't want to question DEP, but is there a approved set of plans, stamped plans on site that he typically reviews?
As far as I know from that said Pond A, I don't think, again, there was no design outlet structure,
Yeah.
So
I mean,
I'm not sure what he would follow. He's going to have to now, because they're gonna be preparing those, and then, obviously, then they will have something to follow.
I was on the landfill committee meeting, this was probably almost a year ago, and I think how some of this stemmed off, but the said trap is indicated on the ENS control plans as being a said trap on their ENS control plans. So where he came up with, he doesn't know, he has to go back to his engineer. I'm just, like I said, there's landfill inspectors, and then there's the Northampton County Conservation District. They only deal in erosion and sediment control. And where that line is it better to have the Conservation District accompany the DEP inspector when they go out and investigate this stuff? That's
That's a
all.
good question.
So who's the Northampton County inspector? Do we have his name?
He's from the Conservation District. They typically, any construction site or site that has a PCSM plan open, ENS erosion and setup control plan open, they have the authority over that site within
Right,
Northampton County.
But the DEP inspection report, which says all this stuff where Scott's reading from, doesn't have anything from the county on here.
No.
Right, so you're saying that there should, like, what would they do? What would they say?
Yeah.
Right.
And I would
I
just
think there's a
add that
difference.
it's a little bit of a different situation than your typical construction project, because the landfill as a whole is permitted by DEP, so
Yeah.
those kinds of inspections are subsumed. Whether the conservation district can or should or would come in and inspect, I don't know that the landfill would have any problem with that, but the reason that doesn't happen is because it's a DEP permitted facility.
Well, but I think, you know, a lot of these issues all have to do with erosion and sediment control. Obviously, there's sediment problems backing up a tank. You know, there's obviously sediment problems in the past with basins not being cleaned out and that type of thing happening. That's in some of these reports. You know, I just don't know how sometimes this gets by a DEP inspector when someone who's formally trained and this is all they look at would be more well suited than possibly someone that has to deal with all this other
Do all
stuff.
those things,
Yeah.
right.
And that's,
Well, it's something we can maybe ask DEP, so.
Yeah, I think it would be worth coordinating, and maybe this is something that collaboratively the landfill could do with the township, is say, we would be agreeable to have Northampton County come in and look, to the extent allowed by law, to provide feedback on the sediment control issue and coordinate that with the DEP.
Yeah, I don't know whether I don't think the conservation district has jurisdiction, so, you know, I'm not gonna make any representation here about that. I can't, I don't have the ability to do that right now, but I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, I think it would be instructive to understand whether or not, because there is a DEP permit, the conservation district isn't
they're
permitted
under
to
the
come on.
DEP. The
I guess
Conservation
that's the
District is an
question.
arm of the E DEP.
So,
I was
and
just
if,
gonna say, like, so these, on the March 14th one, this, Blonica and Harding, and they're from the DP Stormwater and Control, and that's what they actually came out and looked at every one of our ponds, and so, cause Matt actually brought them out for that reason, to come
look
look
at
at
the
that said
ponds.
trap and look at that other side of the road and all the ponds. So that happened on the 14th.
So I think what we have to do is figure out legally whether the conservation district can come out, whether the DEP feels that that's something that they would allow under the DEP permit, or that is required in the DEP permit, and then coordinate that depending on the legal position, with the landfill.
Yeah.
But we just have to figure out legally whether the DEP, permit means that you can't have the conservation.
And I'm not, and I'm
So-
not
And I
not
think it'd be
saying,
great for them to come out if
the
they could,
landfill's
but-
not, I'm not saying they're doing anything wrong, that's not my position, you know what I mean? But there's a lot of, there's even notes in that drawing, any exposed dirt, any exposed ground over, I believe they give you 60 days or 30 days, needs to have intermediate cover placed, you know, I don't know if that's fault, you know, who knows? You know, so that's the type of thing that I think some of this is lacks in reported. And then just one other thing I had, and because this was one of my other conversations, it would be the repair of that 4A and 3C down channel that runs into the main sediment trap. What is it, 4? I
The
think.
sediment pond, yeah.
Yeah. My question is that, will that channel stay in place after the landfill's closed? Or does that eventually it stays, right?
Yeah,
It's
main
a,
channel, yeah.
it's a heavy riprap.
Along with the benches, the terraces going all
Yeah,
the way up
yeah,
through?
yeah.
Okay, so,
That's a post-construction stormwater management plan.
Yep.
That's approved for the site
I-
once it's capped and covered and closed.
and I took a look at that post-construction storm, and I didn't see that specifically called out. I looked at your final grading plan. I didn't know if it was shown on there or not, but there was obviously a repair to something that was already installed. So obviously there was a failure at some point of that channel. When that was constructed, how was it constructed and why did it fail?
You have a year that it happened?
It just happened this year. It was repaired, well, this is the ongoing thing where it was repaired.
What month is that?
It's pretty much all the way down through everyone.
Yeah, it's
So
been
do we
ongoing.
know what is the ongoing issue with that control and what happens to it that requires a repair? Can you explain what that is?
Let me just bring up one more point before they start. My concern is obviously, there's always, what you guys put in a Form 37 is when you do a major construction project, right? It's stamped by your engineer who basically signs off on the work that it was constructed per the plans. Now, that channel, and this is going back, because I've looked at some of this stuff, has been eroding for many, many, many years. And my concern is, how is it being repaired now? Was there a Form 37 submitted for that? And what is the impact potentially, is this gonna have to be repaired 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years? And how much bonding is there for that channel? If it failed now, what are we bonded out for? And what was the repair cost now? Because, on one of those photos, I mean, it's pretty much the whole channel going up the side of the landfill. That's my concern.
I don't know the exact number, but the bonding is,
It
Billy,
covers the
and
entire
it-
site.
But we're talking, we're not talking 30
it's
years. We're
riprap,
talking-
and now, and I know I mean, they're always, I mean, my experience over the last 30 years
Yeah.
there is where they start seeing continual problems, you're improving the situation, and in this case, it's riprap, riprap baskets going in there. Now, before it was a
stone or
strong
whatever.
channel,
Yeah.
so they're seeing, it's just, it's having to be repaired too often, so they're basically improved the situation. And that will go on with the life of the landfill, when it closes, it doesn't close. It's like all the stormwater, all the gas,
I understand.
everything's gotta be maintained,
Yeah.
and again, I don't know the percentage of bonding, but it's huge. That I'm sure will far exceed what the cost of some stormwater channels. I'm not
I don't wanna
guy
throw out a
stamping this,
Yeah,
guy
yeah,
stamping this stuff,
Yeah,
But it'd
you're
be
not the
hard
guy
pressed to,
stamping it.
but it'd
His
be hard pressed
guy
to see,
stamping it.
right, that what they've done now is not gonna hold up.
And that is my concern. If it was installed per plan the first time, and we had engineered drawings of what the stormwater calculations are gonna be going down the side of that mountain, and it was installed at a time when everyone thought this was right, now we have problems, you know, whether it's 10, 15, 20 years later already, you know, we're gonna have, like you said, you can't predict the future, but was there a Form 37 submitted for the repairs of that channel?
You have to check it on.
Okay.
Can you just explain what is it sounds like there's a repetitive issue with the stormwater channel that causes it to erode and.
Which fills up the sediment
That
trap.
needs
for-
repair.
Just to be clear, I mean, I don't necessarily agree with that characterization if we can sort of take out some of the words like repetitive and things like that.
It was an
And
ongoing,
just ask Esther to-
it wasn't that it was fixed and then destroyed. It wasn't, they've been making this improvement over many months of putting these
Okay.
stormwater channels in. So it's just, it's an ongoing construction project. It wasn't like they finished it and then a month later, it was blown, it was all destroyed again. That's not
So it's
what
not
it was
something
made.
where
It
it's
was,
getting washed
basically
out?
started at
It
the top
is.
and worked there. Well, there was some damage towards the very bottom. We had some of those 8-inch storms. I mean,
Right.
and but they were still constructing the channel to upgrading it to the new, I don't know, call it standard, the new design for it. So there was some damage down at the southern and the low end from some of those heavy storms, but that's was unfortunate. I mean, that I don't know, that was under God's control. I don't know how stormwater channels aren't designed to even handle that kind of stuff. That was.
Is
So
the
it's
stormwater
not.
channel the way it's handled? So I'm just trying to understand because I don't have the backgrounds of the three of you. So I'm trying to understand, there's a sediment collection that's happening at the bottom that happens after you clean it out and you get more sediment again. You clean it out, you get more sediment again. Is that sediment collecting there because of this channel or is that a different?
Well, some got in there when it was destroyed, you got some in there, but those are sediment ponds. That's the intention of those ponds. So there's markers on them, on those ponds that when they reach a certain height, because they are designed to collect the sediment and let out clean water, roughly free of sediment. You know. That's the purpose of it. It's not just to hold water and meter it out. It's to let sediment settle. So they're doing what they're designed to do, and then.
Okay.
So the area north of the trap it's not all final capped yet either, right?
North of what trap? North of that sediment pond?
The pond
There's a
basin?
distinction between like said trap A to the north, that's not a stormwater basin.
Yeah, I know
That's
that.
different. So are you talking about said
Yeah.
trap A or the?
Basin
set-
four,
Or the
yeah.
stormwater basin?
Yeah.
Basin 4, okay.
So directly above it is correct, is final cap.
It is. And I saw isn't there piled up all the way up on top anymore, or no? That's pretty much all final cap going down to that basin.
Correct. Yeah, on the facing slope, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they store some rock at the very, very, very top. I don't know if that's.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't.
There's a staging area for some.
I
a lot of that
thought there was
stuff,
a
yeah.
big staging area for spill or proposed for above that area with the northern realignment. I didn't know if there was a big pile up there. That's all I was getting at.
No,
If
it's not
the
above
sediment,
that, no.
if the sediment is actually coming from a pile on the top, or it's coming from the area that's final capped, is what I'm getting at. So any sediment that's going into the sediment trap 4 is from a capped area of the landfill.
No.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
I mean, there's some.
yeah, it's
a
on the
road,
benches,
yeah.
it's cap vegetated, I mean, I'm not, yeah.
Okay. That's all I have.
So I'm sorry, I just want to understand this. This sediment channel, that's getting repaired, has there been new designs that's been submitted to address the washout of it? Or is it just that you have new technology or different data to change what was there before? Because what I understand is that it was one thing and then it changed to something new, and you're in the process of putting something different there.
So in the beginning of this, to answer the question, we never felt like it was constructed properly. Berg did not do a great job putting it in.
Okay,
Nappa's trying to do it right.
okay,
I would've said that a while ago, but,
sorry.
yeah.
Well, who didn't construct it
Berg
properly?
Construction.
The first construction company that
Yeah,
was supposed to.
when I got here in
construct-
2019 is when they constructed that downshoot.
Okay,
And we were never happy with it. They actually had them come back out and for free, try to fix it again. And that's
Okay.
why we just, when Napa came out to do the cell, we're having Napa do it right. Because we've never been happy with it.
okay, so it wasn't functioning
The way that we
you
wanted
intended
it to,
function.
correct, yeah,
So now we're having a different company try
yeah,
to create one
Yeah.
that is functioning.
correct.
Okay. And then what is the timeline for that?
We would like to have been done already, but just with the storms and snow that we had, it slows everything down, so.
Have they given you a projection?
I'd have to check to see. I struggle with the projections because the weather controls everything, so.
Sure.
I mean, the gas plant was supposed to be on last June, so I mean, it's, you know.
Okay.
For me, sometimes when it's done, it's done.
Is it possible to add that as like an update, like you could provide
Yeah, I
the
can do
status
that.
of it? Is that
Yeah,
something doable? Okay,
and that downshoot, I mean, that's something that Nagagowski and Vipon look at every time they come out, so.
okay. Thank you, I appreciate you bringing that to our attention.
Victoria, were you talking about the next agenda update? Or the next, or just?
Like, for our landfill committee meetings, like, it gives us the information on when we have the, the gas to come online, when certain things are gonna be completed. It'd be nice to be added in, update on the stormwater channel, what's this, where they are in the, I guess, the upgrade.
We don't have to wait for the next quarter to get this report.
Oh, well, that's a different question. I was expecting them at the next landfill committee meetings.
A quarter
Which is
from
a
now,
quarter away.
Which is too far.
So if I don't know, how often are they on site daily?
Napa?
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. But we don't know how, like, they haven't,
Well, I mean, they're doing a bunch of different projects, so it's like things get prioritized. Right now, they have the channel set, but yeah, it's not done. But I'll get you an update next
And I
time.
think, Scott, you report in on the status of that work when you do your.
Yeah, I give a rough, it's rough, yeah. And, I mean,
As for his inspections.
Correct.
Okay, that'd be
Are
great.
inspections scheduled ahead of time, or are they
For who?
unannounced? I'm just curious.
Depends.
my inspections
Whether your
are,
inspections or
my-
the DEP.
my inspections are, scheduled.
These are scheduled, Nagagowski's are scheduled, Vipon's are surprise.
so maybe the best then is directed to you, Scott, to provide us like an update on maybe, when
Sure.
you do the inspection. Maybe ask them what is their projected.
Because if you look at the
Completion
scheduled dates of when the inspections took place and the complaints related to smell, there's usually not smell complaints on the days inspections take place, or very minimal. Coincidence?
Yeah, I'd have to, being the random surprise inspections, I would say it's probably a coincidence. Unless somebody knows when he's coming out.
Well, you're saying Matt's are scheduled and Scott's are scheduled?
Nagagowski, yeah, the engineering inspector, yeah. But Vipon's are, yeah, random.
I was just looking at the dates on here.
Yeah.
Need my magnifying glass.
One more quick question I have. I'm
No,
sorry.
you said you were done last
Yeah,
time.
no, one more, I got one more. The Form 37s that are submitted by the landfill's engineer, you don't review those at all. Those are strictly to DEP, right?
Correct.
So all the construction activities that take place there, an engineer signs off from the landfill, goes to DEP, he approves it, and you don't review that, right?
No.
Okay. That's it.
Good questions.
Yeah, Nagagowski's the one who reviews it. So.
Right now, I don't think the township does have anybody on the township side that looks at what the submissions are to cross-check what the landfill engineer submits.
Do you perform stormwater, like, when they put storm pipe in the ground or gas pipe in the ground, does Hanover inspect any of that, or it's pretty much?
No.
But they submit, I'm assuming you guys submit for
We
every
have
pipe
CQI,
that's in the
yeah.
ground, yeah,
There's-
okay. So you're not in charge of any inspections on site besides the,
Not the
besides
construction
those,
inspection.
not the construction inspections? Okay.
I don't,
This is like, is it,
I don't believe the township ever has really had on, even when the committee was, who had the engineers, the staff, that was not something that the township ever had, you
Yeah.
know, when, requested.
That's all I got, no more.
Let's see, I think we're at March 21st,
Now,
number
where are we
6.
again?
What's that?
Where are we?
I think number 6.
Okay.
March 21st, repair of the leachate seeps observed during the March 7th inspection have been repaired. BL is continuing to prepare the plan for the for submission for the vertical gas wells in the southeast corner, the recently capped area. Removal of the sediment around the leachate was ongoing. That was on and off, I mean, due to a lot of weather conditions, rain, and then also obviously with the capping project kind of taking precedent, that contractors moved in there, and obviously that was kind of a higher priority since the leachate storage tank isn't as empty, never hasn't been used yet so far.
can you just explain what the leachate seep is?
Leachate seeps occur, and Astor can jump in here better, but it's basically when you get a lot of rain, it percolates down into the waste, the active area, percolates down into there, and sometimes it'll, instead of getting down into the leachate collection system, it'll hit a barrier someplace below that of waste and come out on the surface. Come out on the surface. So basically how they repair that, and it's in the waste, so that's why it smells like it does. It's in the gas, all that down there. So basically once they see a seep, they'll get an excavator out there and start digging into the waste to try and get down and remove the basic barrier and the waste, wherever's stopping it, and get it down, direct it back into the waste so it can get down into the leachate collection system, back down where it's supposed to go.
So that could happen, for example, like if there's like a mattress or some type of waste in the mass where instead of the water being able to percolate down, it's getting blocked by that, and it goes to the point of least resistance and it seeps up. So they go in, they excavate it, they recreate the path so that it's able to percolate down to the bottom. And that's just sort of the nature of the operations a little bit, and it's exacerbated when there's a lot of precipitation.
Okay, so when you're doing the excavation, where do you place the excavated soil or material?
The waste goes back to the
in the
working
same hole.
phase. So it gets sent back up top there.
Okay,
Like you put stone,
Yeah,
some
we'll
stone.
fill the hole with stone so the water can continue to drain down, and then we put dirt back on top.
Waste goes back up top.
so it goes back up
Yeah.
top. Okay, so the leachate seeps are something that can happen, ebb and flow with water and whatever happens to be underneath.
It's a common
the
thing
spot?
at any landfill. They happen.
Okay,
Just
so that's just
It's just
something that
simple,
comes
it's
with the
routine
nature of the
maintenance,
business.
simple, pretty simple repair.
In places where there's a lot of precipitation.
Yeah.
Coming from the desert in California, I didn't deal with a lot of seeps, so being in PA now, I deal with seeps. So.
You said that was your challenge, right?
Yeah, it's a challenge, that's right.
Came from one.
Yep.
Okay. Just so I have, I can visualize this, when did you guys start trying to address the odors on that southeastern cell?
And we were building,
March 2023, and that's all outlined in that letter that the township got a copy of.
The one you said that was dated
So,
from March?
yeah, so it's about a year.
It is, I think the date is February 22nd.
February 22nd.
That
And
was the one that was in response to the DEP and
That was from you, BL?
That was from Waste Connections from Bethlehem Landfill, yes, and it was to DEP with a CC to the township.
Okay, so that, the issues in that cell started in March 2023. We're continuing with what you were doing to try to mitigate or, reduce the issues. But I think now, at this point, it's being capped, right?
It is
And
capped, yes.
it's capped,
Yeah.
and we're just working on the
gas.
the gas wells. Okay. So I just wanna, I think it's important for the public because a lot of, at least I look at it and I see the odor complaints and the location of the odor complaints, which are not, they're odor complaints that come from residents, but then also the DEP looks like they had done a number of additional like drive-by or inspections, and they had confirmed that the odors were from the landfill as opposed to another outside source. A lot of people talk about the wastewater treatment plant. They talk about the train garbage or like just whatever burning or whatever is happening in the community. I think it's important for the community to understand that this process with this area that we've had this odor from has started from March 2023. We're now in April of 2024, and they're doing wells to try and still collect that gas. But that is where that came from. And it's a process that takes this time. The landfill is doing its job in trying to mitigate it and trying to capture it, trying to deal with it. But the issue in and of itself is something you can't predict ahead of time. It happens, and then it takes this much time to try and mitigate. And in that period of time, in a year's worth, there are the issues that the residents are experiencing or the people in the community are experiencing during this time of mitigation or repair. So I just want to.
And just to be clear, there are odor complaints, and you can see in all of the inspections where they note an odor is, that the landfill is the source of an odor, where they can't determine what the source is, whether it's other, what the nature of the odor is. So I just want to be clear that not every odor complaint that is called in is attributed to the landfill. So to suggest otherwise, I just want to make clear.
I'm not suggesting every odor complaint is. I've also heard the flip side that none of the odor complaints are related to the landfill and they must be from some other source.
Well,
So
that's not a representation that the landfill has made, that it's never had an odor. In
Okay.
fact, I think to the contrary, that we've acknowledged when there's
I'm
a
not
source
even
of
saying
odors.
it's coming from you. I'm just saying in general, there's like I've heard from the community two different sets. I've heard from one set, it's always from the landfill, another set that it's never from the landfill. And just like anything else in life, there's something's true to both sides. So, and when in that situation, you go to the DEP and you look at what the DEP has done and what they have identified. As you indicate, some are not. And during this year process, they've worked with you and you've worked with them and the township to try and repair the issues that are believed to be the cause of the odor. So that's what we're trying to deal with now. It's just the process from March 2023, April 2024, and what has occurred in the meantime, which now is resulting in additional wells being drilled to help mitigate the gas that's coming from that section, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Right, and the other thing too is the caller, when they call in complaints, may not be educated on knowing what to describe or how to describe the odor. And if they're not saying the right words, they're not recorded the right way. So I think it just depends on who's calling it in too, because, you know, it's not, there's a difference between the sewage treatment plant and smelling landfill gas. You know, there's a huge difference. So, anyway.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
But like she said, we're here to, what if there's an odor, we want to fix it.
Yes, and that's why
And
we
you guys do
absolutely
too.
encourage,
Right.
in addition to calling to DEP, I think the site can be the most immediately responsive to that. And Astor and his team make themselves available 24/7. So, you know, again, I would urge anybody who smells an odor to call the landfill so that they can get out there and determine whether it's coming from the landfill, if it is, what the source is, and to get in there and immediately do the work
So
necessary
in your
to
next
fix.
newsletter, can you include the contact information for people to call?
Well, the first call should go to DEP because the DEP knows, and I say knows what an odor is and how to describe it. And then if the resident wants to call the landfill, I encourage that too, I don't discourage it.
And we can add that to the newsletter. It's also posted on the township website and it's posted on the
Right.
landfill's
But
website.
it says to call DEP first and then you guys. I'm pretty sure it's you.
I'm not sure what the order is. All I'm suggesting
I'm
is that,
telling you, the order is, the first is DEP. And
I'm just suggesting that the landfill be called so that they can be immediately responsive, and the hotline number is posted on the township website, on the landfill's website, and we're happy to include that in our next newsletter.
Thank you. Because I know a lot of my neighbors have no clue to even find the township website.
Well, it's on our website.
Yeah.
Our website. I don't think anybody under the age of 40 would go to a website as their first source for any piece of information, unfortunately.
No one under 40 would go to a website for
no,
information?
over
No,
40.
as their first place for information.
Where do they go?
I
Twitter?
don't know. I think that they go to TikTok or some kind of social media outlet, or their friend texting. But I just, yeah, that's just anecdotal, not based on any.
All right, section 7, DEP inspection reports. So basically, I wanted to note any violations that were noted in the inspection reports, DEP inspection reports. So January 11th, where the DEP noted the gas exceedances at the southeast corner. And then also that they noticed some of the seeps and the gas bubbles at that point. Kind of discussed that a little bit earlier. January 26th, the report had didn't note any violations, and it did note that Bethel Landfill is actively addressing the seeps and the odor issues and the repair and the capping project for the southeast corner. February 21st, no violations that noted during the inspection, but it did note that a notice of violation was sent on February 8th to the landfill regarding the odor issue and the seeps and the gas exceedances.
And that's what that February 22nd letter was in response to, correct?
February 26th report, didn't report any violations. And March 15th, again, no violations, and that, again, that Bethel Landfill is, they continued to note that they were working with Bethel Landfill, but then they also did note that the breach of sediment pond, said trap A, and that needed to be repaired, and then also put into a program of an inspection that BL has done.
And I would just note that we submitted a written response on that issue as well, and that letter was dated March 21st, and the township was CC'd on that.
Okay, observations that were noted during the inspection reports. The January 11th report noted possible stormwater collection from Pond A at that point, but that was it. There wasn't a violation noted for that. Let's see if I think I screwed up here. A2. Inspections A2. I think that must mean it was just the DEP that continued working on the seeps and the capping project at the southeast corner. It shouldn't have been DEP inspections. Should have been DEP violations.
Which can you just
B2 should be DEP violations.
in A2?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the same thing. Same note. February 21st report, they reported that the breach in the northern berm sedimentation pond said trap A, and that DP requested BL's at Bethel Landfill submit a plan to address repairs in sediment trap A. They did also note a strong gas odor was detected at southeast corner cell SC2AB. At that point, active capping project area. So that could have been caused by excavation work and that was going on. Not caused by, but exacerbated the problem at that particular time. February 26th, no off-site odors were detected, and I think I covered that one already, sorry. March 15th, no landfill gas odors were detected along the south slope. The geosynthetic liner tarps have been installed. Liner has been installed at the southeast corner, and DEP notes that it appears to be mitigating the fugitive gas emissions. So DEP is basically saying that it looks like what they've done so far is working to help with the gas emissions. And again, there's still the wells to be installed, which will further enhance that situation. The repairs to sediment trap A, the area of concern, the February inspection report have been implemented and corrected.
Just so I understand, what is the timeline for the gas wells that you're working on right now? Do you have any idea for them?
They're out to bid right now. So we have 12 designed for 12 wells in that area.
So the cell 2E-2AB, sorry, SE-2AB, you want to put how many wells?
We have a design right now for 12 wells.
A design for 12, and you're putting that out for bid?
Yes.
When is the bid supposed to be returned, or what's your deadline to receive bids?
There was it Martin Martin's, but like they were supposed to have that stuff to us by the end of this week, and then we'll submit it out. So, you know, we usually put it out for about 2 weeks.
Okay. What's in your bid, do you specify, is there a specification of how quickly you'd like it to be completed by?
We'd like it to be done by July 31st, but obviously if they're available, we'd like it to be done sooner than later.
Okay, so then your hope is to have the 12 wells installed and operational by July 31st?
By Q3, yeah. But again, our goal is sooner.
Or sooner, whichever.
Yeah.
Okay. So then hopefully in our next landfill committee meeting, we can have an update on what's going on with them.
Yep.
And how they're working.
Is that part the final grade or no? You're gonna have to go back there.
That'll be final grade.
It's at? Like the,
In that southeast.
Once we're
southeast corner, yeah.
yeah.
It's at final grade.
Once we finish up there, yeah, we're
Okay.
finishing up there right now.
And then, I think you mentioned it, but the gas to energy plant.
The goals, like there's, again, everything's constructed, ready to go. They said they're just waiting on the occupancy permit, and the dates that they gave us was May 31st at the soonest and June 14th at the latest. But you know, if all they need is the occupancy permit, if they can get that, then hopefully it's before then.
Great. And so that process is currently being reviewed by our third party.
Was it key codes, right?
And so we want to make sure that the third party does the sufficient job that we want. So
Yeah, no doubt.
we're making sure that that's done properly. And then hopefully it will be online. And the objective would be, so everybody understands, the flare burns the landfill gas, which goes into the atmosphere, which is not good for the environment. Very bad. Landfill is going to create gas no matter what. So obviously this gas plant, the idea is to turn it into natural gas so that it can be basically recycled, repurposed to be used by some other entity who utilizes natural gas. So I am looking forward to that. What's the update on the PFAS?
That is still going through that at a Form 37. So that's with the DEP, and then they're finishing up some of their construction, but that's where we're at with that. So that should be online fairly soon.
What is the anticipated PFAS monitoring expected to be? Like how often are you going to be testing for PFAS?
I don't know if I have anything set for that.
I'm sorry? I didn't hear what you said.
Yeah, I don't know, I don't know an answer for that.
Is there anybody that does?
It's a treatment plant, so it will be treating the input and monitoring the output.
Okay,
There are no requirements for that, and so, what the specifics are for that, I don't know, but there's no monitoring, there's no requirement for the pretreatment, there's no monitoring requirement. So, we're sort of out ahead of the curve on this one. So I don't have the details. I assume they're monitoring it all the time. They're gonna be testing it all the time. That's
Okay.
part of the point, I think.
Will the landfill be agreeable to provide their testing results to us once it's online, the township?
No, we're not in a position to agree to that. There's no obligation for us to do that. When that becomes an obligation, we'll certainly comply with our obligations.
Okay, so I want everybody to understand, PFAS, forever chemicals, come from the landfill in the leachate, and while we're having this wonderful system that's going to treat the PFAS, my understanding is, as far as what PFAS is being treated, what you've got out of it, all of that data is protected within the landfill's knowledge and operations. So we don't get to understand what was in there or how it gets discharged to the wastewater treatment plant and what happens to it there.
Well, just to be clear, there are, to the extent that there are PFAS and there are hundreds of different types of PFOS and PFAS, and we don't have to get into the science of it all, but the landfill doesn't use those, they don't create those. Those
Garbage
constituents are in the
The garbage does not
in
create
the
it.
waste
It's
that's
in the garbage.
coming in from the waste that's coming from neighborhoods and institutions and all the things. We, as a passive receiver, are voluntarily treating our leachate, and the data that we're gathering from that treatment program, that's going to be, that treatment plan is going to be permitted by DEP. The data that we gather is our data, and when we're obligated, I mean, I suspect that when the industrial waste discharge permits are renewed for any of the industrial waste discharges to the POTW, there's gonna be a monitoring requirement. And obviously, we and every other industrial discharge permit holder are going to have to monitor and report.
So then it'll be public.
I suspect that's
Right.
gonna be what's coming.
Right. Otherwise, you wouldn't spend, I'm assuming, millions of dollars to create the PFAS treatment plant if you didn't expect to have to treat it anyway at some point in the future.
Well, I mean, I think that, yes, I mean, industries across the board
Right.
understand that this is an issue, and, we're fortunate that Waste Connections is voluntarily trying to get out in front of this instead of waiting to get some sort of order
Appreciate that.
demanding
Thank you.
them to do something.
Okay.
So there's a portion that's unlined underneath the lined landfill. Portion that's unlined basically takes the groundwater, pumps it to Bethlehem Sewage Treatment Facility, I'm assuming, right?
So just
That
to be
water
clear,
won't be monitored.
the unlined portion has been covered and capped.
Yes, that's what I
So
mean.
there's no new precipitation
Yes.
coming through that waste mass.
Correct.
The precipitation coming through that waste mass is captured
Yes.
and run through an abatement system.
Yes. So the new system will only account for what's from the liner up, not the old waste.
No, everything is getting directed to the treatment, to our on-site
Yeah.
pre-treatment, and then we'll go out to the POTW.
That was what I wanted.
But the old waste, what you're saying, what you put a cap over the, I think the assumption is because you capped it and there's no, and the idea is if you cap it, there's no precipitation reaching the old, that it would not generate any leachate.
No,
No,
that's not true.
The
There's an abatement system, sorry.
The
go ahead,
abate,
Scott.
yeah,
Go ahead.
the abatement wells that are all along, run parallel to Applebutter Road in front of the along the landfill.
Okay.
So those are all sucking out groundwater, creating that cone
From the old-
cone
from
of
the old-
depression. That's
okay.
part of the old treatment, how to correct the contamination from the original, very original landfill.
Right.
So all that water that's being pumped all goes in, right now goes
So
into,
both
so it's gonna,
Will go in.
so it's
Okay.
gonna get directed into there.
Okay,
it's all
thank you,
going-
because I didn't
yeah.
understand that, thank you, I appreciate that.
That's the original abatement wells that were put in
So the-
years ago right.
The abatement well, leachate, plus the current, whatever's from the newer landfill that's lined, all go into the treatment.
Remember the bathtub and the straws at the zoning hearing board? Do you remember that?
Was that a Rick Bodnar analogy?
No, it was another guy. I forget his name. But that's how we're like, picture a bathtub and all the abatement wells have straws and the plume, because it was polluted back then, it's now clean. Most of it is cleaned up. Yeah,
they're running.
They did a
they're
good
running
job.
clean.
The abatement wells did a good job. And there's little straws and they're going in there and they're sucking up little pieces of flint or whatever, and that's the pollution, and that's how it worked. That's what they said to the zoning hearing board. I'm like, what?
I think we were hopeful to have Scott give us an overview of, just to show everybody the different cells of the landfill and where the current operating phase was, but it looks like our tech is down. So maybe we'll save that for the next landfill committee meeting.
Well, Astor, of course, what you report on, but Scott, this extra stuff really helped. Thank you.
Do we
All
wanna,
right, is there anything else from the committee members?
I didn't hear what he said.
Is there anything else from the committee members? We'll move on to the next.
No, you guys covered a good thing, good questions.
Okay,
I'm happy right now.
If not, then I guess take questions from the audience.
Support.
You have the torch and it's burning off the excess gas.
Mark, you wanna go? The microphone. Sorry.
You're the one who needs a microphone sitting.
I'm gonna text Karen. Maybe a couple minutes later.
Hello?
Oh, there you go.
You have the torch and it's burning off the excess gas and you see the flame. After it burns, what does it become? Like a car burns fuel and then it comes out carbon monoxide or dioxide, whatever. What happens to the gas when it burns, the flame is there and the leftovers protrude into space? What is that gas?
I mean, that's a complicated question to answer. I think what I would emphasize is that's a permitted flare that's monitored, and we have to remain in compliance with our permit requirements for that flare.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
What's the gas though? Do we know what the gas is?
Science.
I mean, I don't think it becomes a gas, right? A gas would burn off, it becomes an after product, right? Like some sort of exhaust. What that is,
Yeah.
You know, again, I can look into it. I'm sure it's out there.
I'm just curious,
It's a good question.
you know?
Mark, just to elaborate on that, so we do testing each year annually on the emissions, because we have to run it through to see how much, when it is burned off, there's a calculation to show what byproducts are left, and we do report that every year for our Title V permit. And that's public,
Okay, where do I find that then?
DEP.
In here?
Not,
It probably also has copies of those reports.
Because that's what? Renewable every 5 years? You have to renew
The
that?
Title V
The
permit?
permit is, yeah, but we have to submit a report
Annual
semi-annually.
reporting, and that would be like the SES reports
Correct.
that you get.
Okay, that's it. And then we can adjourn the meeting.
Everybody?
Too late.
We didn't really address all the complaints related to this smell and the odor. I know we kind of talked around about doing some of the other things, the new gas plant coming online, but to me, I need it to be, for the record, that That is very concerning, and people are smelling it on Lower Saucon Road, at the Preserve, Reddington Road, where they historically have never smelled it, and it just, as you can see, has become worse and worse.
I don't think I've ever seen this many pages. And
Actually, I agree with
it's
you
actually
there.
a small print. Thank you for bringing that up. I wanted to.
In my travels around the area, I do smell landfill odor on Lower Saucon Road near Easton Road in that area, coming up the hill toward Island Park Road toward the landfill. You can smell pockets of gas. I live 2 3/4 miles south of the landfill. And when the wind is coming from the north, which is not very often, thank goodness, I can sometimes smell the landfill by my front door. And that's pretty far away. So, and again, it's rare. You know, it's like maybe once every couple of months, because the wind doesn't come from the north that much. But I do notice that the landfill gas does seem to be traveling further from the landfill these days.
But again, that's, I mean, I think that's acknowledged by everybody, and it has been a problem for the last year, and so you should be seeing, again, already some noticeable differences, and once these 11, you said 11? 12 gas wells are installed, so all that gas that used to make it to the atmosphere, you know, is now gonna be captured by those gas wells and put in, so it should, I mean, should
Yeah, I
correct,
hope
not
so.
a huge part of the problem.
Yes, I know it's being worked on, and
Yeah.
hopefully that will resolve. Because that's pretty far distance for it to travel.
Well, no, if the winds are right, yeah, it can go, and if it's heavy, you know, winds are right, and you got very humid conditions, low cloud cover, it can but should be mitigated substantially now.
Yeah.
I think that was going to the point that I was trying to make before, is that I think I will acknowledge, and I think it's important for people to acknowledge, that the landfill does try to address problems as they arise. It's important to see that. What is something that we have to deal with, which will be something we always deal with when we have a landfill in the township, is that when there is a problem, it can take this amount of time to finally find the source of the problem and use the proper mitigation to address the problem. So from March 2023 to hopefully July 31st, 2024, the issue of the gas at this particular corner that is entering into the community, causing odor complaints and whatnot, it is an ongoing problem for that period of time. So it's a year plus 3 months. Now, other issues might be able to address in a month. Some take longer, but it is the nature of the business that we have to contend with when we have a landfill. And I wish there was a different way to deal with it, but unfortunately we can't. I hope that we do see an end to this odor issue when the wells are drilled, and that will finally address the problem. But it is unfortunate that landfills create this problem, and we have to deal with that.
Right, and I encourage people to call in, because if they don't call in to notify DEP that there's an issue, DEP doesn't know, because they only come out once or twice a month. And if they're not smelling it the day that they come out there, there's no record of it. So by people calling in, there's records. And as we can see by these pages and pages. And when they start seeing pages and pages like that, they're gonna make the landfill do things to change their method of collecting the gas, and that's what we're seeing here. So that's a result, in my opinion, of people calling in. So I wanna thank the residents for doing that.
We're the best watches of our community. We're the only people that can really protect it.
So, you have garbage, you have gas. Because when I called DEP and I talked to the girl over there, and we had some lengthy talks, she wants to know, does it smell like gas? does it smell like garbage? To me, it's a garbage dump, smells like garbage. I don't know what to tell the difference between gas and garbage, but I know when I leave garbage in my little can on my countertop too long and there's something in it that's rotten, it smells like garbage. So, are you trying to tell me that all the smells coming from the landfill are from the gas that it generates and not the garbage itself?
I think it can depend on the day. There could be days when it's a garbage odor and you smell it, and we're on the very top if the wind's right. Scott said, if it's humid or if the air is heavy, pushes everything down, you might smell the garbage. But if, when we have the gas issue on the, that southeast corner like we've been having predominantly, I mean, when you go up and down Apple Butter, that's predominantly all gas that you're smelling right there, like Red Barn down to Ringhofer. That's gas odor.
Okay.
If it smells like the back of a dump truck with garbage in it, it's the daily, when you do the daily stuff. If it smells gassy, landfill gas.
Well, I still really didn't figure out how to tell the difference.
It's hard to tell the difference. I mean, I know that there was a lawsuit that was filed against the landfill for landfill odors, and it turned out that they were odors from the POTW. So it's not an exact science, unfortunately, but to the extent that we know, if we know that someone's experiencing an issue and you call the landfill, we can go out and we can investigate, because obviously, we are operating in a community, and we want to address any problems that are being created by the landfill. And I think that's obviously Astor it's very important to him to run a tight ship, and I think he's been very responsive.
Right, and those residents in that lawsuit were over in Freemansburg, I think.
Yes.
They weren't even around here, so they probably were smelling the sewage treatment plant, because that would be in their direction. So people didn't know about the landfill, so.
Well, you could tell the difference between the sewage treatment plant and the garbage dump.
Very distinct, different odors.
Yeah. But anyway, it smells out of my house a lot more than it ever did, which is unusual, Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. I think we're
Yes.
adjourning.
Meeting adjourned.
Second time.
Okay. I don't know, back there.
Send me that if you find it.
Okay, they said that's by biannual.